We are in for a real battle. We are talking about the United States of America, and there will always be an America, don't misunderstand, but we're talking about it remaining the country we were all born into and reared and grown into. And it's under assault. It's always under assault, but it's never been under assault like this from within. As you leave here, optimism, confidence, not guilt. It's not worth it. There's nothing to be guilty about.
1 year ago today, legendary conservative radio host Rush Limbaugh passed away at the age of 70. He was an advocate for freedom and was instrumental in shaping the conservative movement post-Ronald Reagan. Joining me now to weigh in on the legacy of Rush Limbaugh is radio host of the Rob Carson Show, Rob Carson. Hey, buddy, it's great to see you. You know, he had sizable shoes to fill. No one person, I think, can do it. What's your take on conservative media? Are enough voices coming in to fill the void left by Limbaugh?
Well, yeah, there are a lot of voices out there as far as being able to do what Limbaugh did. No, there are a lot of great conservative voices. I think that a lot of people were feeling like they'd be rudderless without Rush Limbaugh on the radio, and I think that we've been able to kind of adjust a little bit and look around to find some sort of connection with other hosts. I think the biggest mistake that corporate radio made was forgetting that Rush Limbaugh ever existed, and that's the only issue that I see. I think that people need to do more than just have an opinion. Opinions are quite easy, you know, as well as I do, Chris, that opinions are easy. Everybody's got one, and the last thing radio needs really is another desk-pounding opinion. Rush did what he did with connection and with humor and with a wink and a nod, and that was brilliant. That was a brilliant thing about Rush Limbaugh. So there are, listen, be glad that there are conservative voices out there, because without Rush Limbaugh, there wouldn't be so many voices. There wouldn't be so many people filling up podcasts and radio shows and television. We can thank Rush Limbaugh for uncorking conservatives around the country and creating at least 2 generations of next generation talk show hosts. As far as ever filling Rush Limbaugh's shoes, nobody will ever be able to do that. It's like saying, I'm the next Elvis, or I'm the next James Brown, or I'm the next Martin Luther King Jr. Not going to happen. What we can do is we can find somebody we connect with and stay positive, and just stay positive and stay focused. And that's the thing we can do. And my show, I do a national show now. It's growing every day. We are adding affiliates all the time. And all I can do is I can bring the comedy that I wrote for Rush Limbaugh for over 20 years to a new show and a new generation, and do my very best to honor his legacy by doing the kind of humor I brought to his show, and doing more than just having an opinion, entertaining people, informing them, and motivating them.
Well, we are 1 year after Rush's passing and 1 year into the Biden administration. And being a student of the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies, I think he would say, "Told you so." What do you think he'd be saying after 1 year of Biden's disastrous occupation of the Oval Office?
Well, he did write a book called See, I Told You So. In the early 90s, he wrote, the first book was The Way Things Ought to Be. The second was See, I Told You So. He's done a lot of See, I Told You So. This would be the biggest See, I Told You So ever, because there are so many ways that the Biden administration and the secrets that we're finding about the COVID virus, Russia collusion, Joe Biden just being the president, the failure of his policies. It would be every day would be a new I Told You So, and every day Rush would approach it with the roller coaster that he took you on every day, whether that be passionate monologues to entertaining segments to connecting with you. This would be a banner year for Rush Limbaugh. I mean, this would be a fantastic year for Rush Limbaugh. He did hint at it before he passed. And I spoke to most nerdly James Golden, his producer, and I asked him. I said, "Did Rush know the last day he was on the air, it was going to be his last show?" And he said, "No, he didn't. But he did leave the air a week or two before he passed away." And he hinted about a new revolution coming to the country, not a violent revolution, but a new revolution coming to the country. And I think he would have been the leader of that. I really do. But there are other people who are taking the reins. Yeah, I really do, buddy. You're part of it, bro. I mean, Chris, part of it too, man.
Thank you, man. Look, let's talk about some news here real quick. Former President Trump had to say this on the Clinton scandal in a new ad from his Save America PAC. Watch this.
The biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign. They spied on my campaign.
There's no
Leslie.
real evidence of that.
Of course there is. It's all over the place.
A new report from special counsel John Durham. Clinton campaign lawyers paid a tech company to infiltrate Trump servers.
It was you, Hillary Clinton, who undermined our democracy. There are people that should go to jail.
Justice is coming for you, Hillary. Rob, absent Rush Limbaugh, do you think the Republican Party is up to the task of dishing out to the Democrats the same treatment the Democrats have been dishing out to them and dishing out to we in the country?
Oh, I think that there are some people there who will do it. I don't think Mitch McConnell will. I don't think Lindsey Graham will or Kevin McCarthy will. I think there's a new generation of Republicans, and I'll be quite honest, it's led mostly by women. I like to say that the latest crop of Republicans in Congress are women, and they seem to have the cojones. People like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Kat Kammack, who I had on this week. Kat Kammack is spectacular, and Kat Kammack has told me heads are going to roll. When the Republicans win both houses of Congress in November, heads are going to roll. So I don't think that we are going to just sit back and say, oh, you know, whatever happened, happened. I think really, honestly, there's a commitment by a younger generation of Republicans, and it's driven by us, you and me. I would say Generation Xers and Boomers to some degree, millennials. They're ready for change, and I think you're going to see across the party lines, racial lines, to join the Republican Party and say enough is enough. We got to fix this. We got to drain this swamp, but we got to fix it. Yeah.
Across the board, I think you're seeing exactly what you're articulating. Rob Carson, appreciate it, buddy. We'll talk soon.